Hello, Rob McNeilly here again, and thanks for being willing to uh, come back and watch this second of the series of three free videos. Last time I spoke about some of my background and how come I got interested in this kind of work, and I really appreciate the comments that have come from people about some of the blocks that gets in the way for them feeling confident and exploring how we can be more effective. And really, just to go over what I said last time, I'm really keen to let as many people know about this work as possible in as many ways as possible. I've been teaching face-to-face workshops for the last 40 years in Australia and other parts of the world, running online programs so that people can become more interested in this and find out more about what Erickson was talking about and how we can all improve our effectiveness of our work. And these three videos are just one more way to put these ideas out there in case they may be of some use to you. And I'm so appreciative of people taking the time to leave the comments. And I've been, the similar comments to what I've been hearing for years now in my teaching workshops, that it's such a wide area to explore that we can get overwhelmed and not even know where to start. I mentioned those 6 areas to explore, but each one of those could take half a lifetime to do. So where do we start and how do we do that? So often we can fall into a mood of just hoping, doing our best, trying our best. And one of the recurrent problems that doing that's going to lead to is the burden that we'll all feel in that situation of pretending that we know what we're doing, pretending that we are the expert. And it's lovely to have other expressions of what I've been hearing for decades now about the relief that happens when we find a way of stepping aside from the position of expertise. As Scott Miller and his friends talked about stepping down from the throne. It's such a relief. Instead of hoping and wishing and pretending, we can be genuinely in the conversation of learning how to be more effective. And what I noticed for myself and a number of people who have been in programs that I've been part of have said the same thing, that it's nice to take one topic, and it doesn't have to be in any order, but one of the topics, for example, that I'm mentioning can be any of the topics, looking at the therapeutic relationship, listening, restoring trust, creating expectancy, accessing resources, or self-care. Anyone. And what I found helpful was for a week or a couple of weeks, I would maybe sometimes I'd even write it on a piece of paper, a little sticky note to remind myself, a post-it. This week I'm going to pay attention to the relationship and make sure I stay in a relationship with the client, with each client, instead of having a relationship with my theory, my wisdom, my expertise, my pretense, and started to pay attention to them. Or if I was looking at listening, to just remind myself, just with another post-it, today, this week, this couple of weeks, I'm going to be paying attention to my listening, and so on. I found that so helpful to take one at a time and just play with that over time to develop some sensitivities, which then started to become more automatic, and then I could move on to something else. So that's an invitation for you to try that. That's what I found helpful, and a lot of students have said the same, so I offer that idea to you as well, just in case it might be useful to you. So I wanted to say some things about Some of these issues that are going to be, for me, pivotal if we're going to be doing good work. I'll mention some of them in this video and the others in the third and final video. So I wanted to say something about the therapeutic relationship. We know it's important. We know it's crucial. Scott Miller and his friends have even produced statistical evidence that it is of the common factors throughout all therapeutic approaches. The therapeutic relationship contributes to a larger component of effectiveness than any other component within the therapy itself. So, therapeutic relationship. How can we have a relationship with a client that is going to be useful to them? And it seems apparent as an idea, but not necessarily easy as a way of implementing. To start with the supposition, to start with the idea that each person is a legitimate person. To begin by accepting that they are who they are. And for the time that we are having the therapeutic conversation with them, to put aside, not to give up, but to put aside, or at least put somewhere out of our central vision, perhaps just in our peripheral vision, our assessments about them, whether we like them or not, whether they're good or bad or what, and just start from the position that this person in front of us is a legitimate person doing the best that they can under the circumstances that they find themselves in. Not as a way for us to approve of that or condone it, but just as a starting point. I remember Erickson telling me about a man in a psychiatric hospital, and all he would say was, "I shouldn't be here." Whenever anyone said anything to him, he wasn't interested. All he would say was, "I shouldn't be here." And so Erickson replied to him and asked other people in the hospital to give the same reply. When he said, "I shouldn't be here," Erickson replied, and he got the other people to reply, "But you are here." And when that man heard, "But you are here," enough times, he realised, "Oh my goodness, I'm here." Then he said for the first time, "What do I need to do to get out of here?" But he had to get there where he was before he had any chance of getting out of there. And so that applies to anything. We need to start where we are, to accept the client is who they are, where they are at the moment, as a starting point, not as a finishing point. My goodness, that'd be terrible. We'll all end up in a mutual self-help group justifying unacceptable behaviour. But as a starting point, seems to me, that's one way that we can have the chance of establishing a genuine, accepting therapeutic relationship. One of the things I've found helpful, I think I read about this in one of Steve DeShaze's books, of just imagining what it would be like for me to have had the experience that the person in front of me has had. And I found it quite easy to say genuinely, if I'd been through what you've been through, I'm really not sure that I would be doing as well as you're doing. I found that to put myself in their shoes, so to speak, it's a very connecting, very humbling, and very useful first step. Okay, now there's a lot more we could say about that, but my invitation is for you, if you're interested, to play with that. I want to say something about listening. Now, listening is one of these topics that we all know it's crucially important. We need to listen. Clients will say, it's so wonderful to have someone to talk to. But when they say talk to, they just don't, they're not interested in talking to the wall. There's something about the way that if we can be genuinely interested, genuinely attending to them, if we're really listening to them, then when they say it's good to have someone to talk to, they're alluding to the fact that it's not only them talking, but the fact that we are listening. And for some people, listening is going to be what will be the healing process. Some people will, once they can find a listener, someone who's willing to listen, put aside judgments and just be present and listen to what they're saying, what they've been through, what their fears are, what their hopes are, sometimes that's sufficient and they can move on. But listening is a very complex process. It's not, as we often think of it, as something to do with hearing. Oh, I hear what you say. Listening is a very complex process, but we can make some useful beginnings to attend to some of the complexities of this in a way that doesn't need to be overwhelming. And one of the things I found helpful is to begin to notice how easy it is for us to listen for certain things. A car mechanic listens for noises and problems so that he knows how to fix it. A doctor listens for descriptions of the pain, of the discomfort, of the problem so that he can fix it. In a problem-solving approach, we listen for what's wrong that needs fixing. And that's essential for fixing things that are broken. Physical things that need to be adjusted, essential. But for us humans, we're not mechanical. We don't fit into that kind of mould. And so if we, instead of listening for what's wrong here that needs fixing, if we listen for what resource, if we listen for what's missing for someone, if we listen for what do they want from this counselling, from this therapy session, if we listen for that, we will be much more likely to be able to connect with them and their concerns and what's missing for them, and then help them to find it and connect with it. So the invitation is, if you're interested, notice that instead of listening with our intellect to classify and listening for problems, see what happens if from time to time, or as often as you want, you start to listen for what are the concerns that this person has. What do they want? What's missing for them? Why are they there? Why are they with us? What are they up to? To listen for that. And, of course, there's a lot more we could say, because we can listen intellectually, we can listen emotionally, we can listen intuitively, we can listen from past experience, we can listen for future opportunities. There's a lot of complexities that we could explore, but simply to start with the willingness to listen to our own listening and wonder what we're listening to, and then make some minor adjustments. It's an invitation for you to play with. Now, the next topic to pay attention to is this huge issue of trust. My goodness. Anytime any of us have a problem, there's going to be some issue of trust around. You break a leg, you don't quite trust the leg, you don't quite trust the ground that you slipped on or the ladder that you fell off, and so on. Any relationship conflict, there's going to be some diminution of trust in the other partner, and so on. And trust is one of these ubiquitous concerns of us humans, that we can't just say, oh, trust me, or I'll never trust that again. And there are two kind of default positions that we tend to come from. One is that of a naive trusting everyone. Oh, everyone's going to be okay. And the kind of absurd exaggeration of that is, I'm going to close my eyes and cross this busy road and trust that I'll survive. Well, good luck. But on the other hand, if instead of just naively trusting everything, we go to the other extreme and trust no one, then we can't get in a plane because we don't trust the plane, we don't trust the pilot. We can't get in a car because we don't trust the car, the other drivers, the person who's driving this car. So that kind of paranoia of not trusting anyone is very diminishing. And it makes our life small and scary and lonely. So how can we, when some trust has been damaged, betrayed, broken, how can we restore it? And I've noticed that this can be a process that can take a little time, and it's a matter of, in my view, it's a matter of learning. So one other emotion that's very different from naive trust or that paranoia where we trust no one is the mood of prudence. And with prudence, we say, well, you've damaged me. Something's happened in the past. I'm not sure about you. And I'm going to give you a chance to make good. I'm not going to just trust you, but I'm not guaranteeing to maintain distrust. I've got good reason to have mistrusted you in the past, but I'll give you a chance. And we'll just see what happens over time. If I start to run the risk of trusting you, then see what we can build. Another marvellous aspect of trust that Fernando Flores, one of my Chilean teachers, wrote about in a beautiful book called Building Trust, was the idea that if we begin by trusting the client, we don't ask them to trust us, but we start by trusting them in our act of trusting the client, they have an inclination to be more trustworthy as a direct consequence of us trusting them. Now, if they're trustworthy for themselves, they're going to restore trust within themselves, and they're actually more likely to trust us. So that's another area to, if you're interested, to explore. With you, are you more inclined to just be a cheerful Charlie and trust everyone and cop the consequences? There are always plenty of consequences if you do that. Do you have a tendency to start from trusting no one? So there's always that kind of wariness and distance. Is there any chance for you to be prudent, to say, well, I don't know about this person, but I'll keep my options open and just see what happens? And what's your experience of leading with trust? Starting by trusting someone else and see what happens. So there's some ideas that I'm offering I found them so helpful myself. And people in teaching programs have also found them, they made such a difference to themselves, to their work and to their clients. So I'll say some more about the other of the 6 essentials that I've distinguished here. I'll say more of that in the next video. But again, I wonder if you would take a moment to make just 1 or 2 comments, perhaps even just 1 comment about something that you have discovered that has helped you to break through, to get past some reluctance, some difficulty, some obstruction in some of these areas. Just make a comment about what's been useful for you. And again, thank you for being willing to listen. And I trust that there's something in what we can share and learn together in these videos is going to be useful to you. So thank you for being willing to be part of this, and look forward to hearing from you and your comments and speaking with you again in the next video. Thank you.